Hey, hey.
What's up?
I never really thought about how positive our music sounds compared to like the shit we talk about. I'm just over here jamming.
I think that it's sort of like a, okay, get ready.
Prep yourself.
Prep yourself. Yeah, get ready. Like, you know, get that like happy dose. Let's talk about booze.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. And then we're like, and then we do a little bit of this.
I was wondering how you were going to work it in. Love it. Love it. Anyways, welcome to another week of Case Files.
With Kat.
And Ashley. Thanks for being here. For this hot mess that we are.
Hey, but we had no technical difficulties.
I know. I mean, very exciting, yet we're 1 minute into the podcast.
1:22. I shouldn't have said anything. Anyway, so how's your week been?
It's been pretty good. This is my kind of weather. Dark, rainy, windy.
But did you see the solar eclipse?
I did not. I was in a meeting and I was in Friendswood and it was just too dark. I just didn't see it. But I heard you had a marvelous time. Beautiful pictures from where you were.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so awesome. I think my favorite picture was some Mexican restaurant put a picture of a tortilla with an avocado over it. I'm like, that's awesome.
Pretty good marketing there.
Pretty good marketing. I can't remember what they were called, but yeah, pretty good marketing. It was awesome. I've never seen it like that. That was really cool. We were out in the Texas wilderness.
I was gonna say it looked like the middle of nowhere, but it was really pretty.
So just surrounded by bluebonnets and there's no trees, you know. I mean, it's just like flat, but it's hilly, but it's flat. There's no like high foliage, so we didn't have any like cool shadows as it was going. You know, remember at South Shore the last time? Yeah, we saw the cool moons, crescent moons everywhere. But this was really just really neat to be able to see like 5 minutes of the totality of it. And that was just so neat. I've never experienced anything like that. It got so dark. The birds started going crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they started singing their nighttime songs. Like they didn't know what was up. Yeah. So they were like, oh, it's nighttime.
I bet that is weird for animals.
Like all of a sudden you could just hear the morning birds.
Yeah.
Just and like it just got super loud. And then after it was over, it was like, oh, we're back to being loud. What just happened? Yeah. Like it's the morning, you know? And so it was like, I'm sure for these little animals, they were like, what the
now I feel bad for the animal.
I know, but could you imagine living way back when?
Oh, I know. I've seen a lot of people talking about that, like not knowing what was happening. Yeah.
What is this? Like the gods must be mad, you know, just all the things that you'd think. Yeah. I don't know. It was bizarre, but we had the glasses and saw great. We were just so thankful that the clouds cleared up, man. Yeah. It took us 6 hours to drive the 3 hours, but you know, we made it home.
Well, that's good. Yeah, like I said, I tried. Instead, I just went inside and drank my little coffee and ate my little Danish. I was at Summer Moon. Great place if you have one near you.
Yes, that delicious coffee. Yeah, and good Danishes too. Yeah, yes. Good place. So, what you got for us?
Well, I really wanted to do a disappearance because, I mean, clearly they're my favorite. And we've been doing...
Is hell freezing over right now? What's happening right now?
We've done so much murder lately.
And you're going to do another one.
But I heard this story. I actually heard this story today. I changed my stuff last minute because I heard this story and I was like, this I think is kind of an important topic. Because it really highlights the dangers of stalking and and stuff in relationships.
Yes, and queen. Yes,
and how when the police take it seriously, it makes a difference.
What? Oh my gosh!
And
I'm living for this.
Yeah, and like it talks about survivor's guilt from one of the people I'm going to talk about. And, if you've truly been stalked or someone's been obsessed with you, you know it's not like the memes. You know it's very scary and very dangerous. And it's so, so scary. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. So this is the murder of a Texas college student named Jackie Vandagriff. In September 2016, a young man walked into a college bar in Denton, Texas, and he took a seat. He, to everyone that was there, he just appeared to be maybe another college student. He was very friendly, talkative. Nothing about him really stood out. He was just sitting at the bar by himself, having a drink. But in fact, his name was Charles Bryant, and he was a 29-year-old male and did not attend the University of North Texas, which was located right across the street. Charles was actually forbidden to step foot on said campus. And you may be thinking, how does one get forbidden and or banned when they aren't even a college student? Well, it's because he was stalking his ex-girlfriend named Caitlin Mathis. She was a freshman at this time, and she had a restraining order against him. And just 6 days prior, he was arrested for stalking her. So I'm going to talk about Caitlin and Charles's relationship because it leads to the story of poor Jackie and what happened to her. So Caitlin was 18 years old when she first met Charles. Literally the day after she graduated high school is when she met him. And so he was a bartender and he was a personal trainer. And they met only a few months prior to the September night where the incident happened.
This only takes
place in 1 year. So they met in June 2016, the day after she graduated high school, before she went to college. And then the incident that happened in September of the same year.
Oh my God, just months.
So in a 48 hours interview, Caitlin states he was definitely smooth. It seemed like he had his life together. He was very attractive. Charles had a very easygoing attitude. He was fit because he was a personal trainer, and he just made this really great impression on Caitlin. He was very sweet at first, very smooth talking, knew what to say, kind of doted on her. And at this time, she was going to be a freshman. She was going to the university and was working at that time as a server at Buffalo Wild Wings in Grapevine, Texas. That's where both her and Charles lived at the time. So she recalls Charles as being very charming, and then she stated in the same interview that faded within a matter of weeks of them dating. He was very controlling. He always had to know where I was, Caitlin said. She continued on in the interview and said he needed my constant attention. He was a narcissist. And so when the fall semester of college started and she was going to move to Denton to go to college, she decided to break up with him. He did not take this well, and things very quickly escalated. So he would tell her things like, "You'll never find anyone better than me. You're nothing without me." And then she described him as very toxic, and the way he would speak to her as very toxic. And the day after they broke up, he actually showed up to her mother's house and telling her, "Oh, I'll work on myself. I'll get better. I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. I promise this. I promise that." He said all of the right things. And at that time, she did decide to initially get back together with him, mostly because he was at her mother's house. She didn't really know what he would do. And then he was like saying all of these things, right? Like, "I'll work on it. I'm sorry. I thought about it." But she said the one thing that her mother had taught her was people don't change. You can't change someone. Basically they have to want to change. And so she was just at this point waiting for the right time to end things, which she finally ended it for real a week later. So she wow.
Yeah. I'm actually really impressed with her.
Her and her mom were very close, and her mom did not like Charles at all. She did not.
But I mean, come on, and someone's mom liking, not liking or liking means everything. You go the opposite direction. Yeah. But she also was very like, Nope. I know my boundaries.
Yeah.
I know what is healthy. I know what is not healthy, and I'm listening to that voice. She did everything that we say to do.
Yep.
If you feel uncomfortable, you're right. Like listen to that.
Yep.
And she did it. And she set those boundaries. That's amazing.
Yeah.
To me, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, people have a hard time doing that.
And she said she learned that from her mother. Yeah.
I don't know that I do that.
Yeah. I definitely have a hard time setting boundaries with just anything.
Exactly.
So again, she was waiting for the right time, and she did it a week later. Hard stop. She asked him to leave her alone, to leave her family alone, to please stop communicating with her, and to just, let it go.
It's amazing.
So that morning, Charles was actually arrested on campus, unbeknownst to Caitlin. So Caitlin had not told him where she was living. Okay, so she was staying in the dorms, but she did not tell him where she was staying, anything like that. And he was arrested on campus because a campus security officer had pulled him over thinking he was drunk based on the way he was driving. Since he was
slowing down,
I guess they
looking, not paying attention.
The officer just said he was driving, kind of weird. So he thought that he was hungover, driving from somewhere. And so, but since he wasn't over the legal limit, they couldn't hold him, but they did charge him because he had some overdue traffic tickets that were outstanding, and they let him go. So at that time, he leaves campus. But later that same day, he comes back to campus, and he knocked on Caitlin's dorm room, even though she had never told him where she was staying. When she asked, "How did you find me?" he told her he knew it was her room because her name was on the door. Because, in some dorms, they have your name or whatever.
Oh,
but that's still weird.
Have they changed that? They should change that shit.
So my only assumption is he went around looking until he could find her name. But that's what his excuse was, is that he saw her name on the door. So he told her he knew it was her room because her name was on the door. She said this really creeped her out, and it made her really scared. Caitlin got him out of there as quickly as she could and then called the campus police. The police officer that had arrested Charles earlier in the day recognized his name on the report that was made and went to interview Caitlin himself the very next morning. So his name was Officer Polk, and I just have to say that he did so many things in this case that I feel like really protected Caitlin because he took her very seriously. So I'm going to play
2 shows in a row. Bravo to us.
Yeah.
Bravo.
And he eventually becomes the captain of the police force.
Wow.
But I'm going to play this clip real quick.
Of the campus police force or of the...
the police force, what I think was actual police officers working security is kind of how I felt. Like they were, kind of like a second job. Okay. Because he was a real police officer when all of this was happening. But anyways, I'm going to play this clip.
And went along to interview Caitlin the next day.
This is him talking.
She told us things like, I just did not like the way Charles spoke to me. I did not like the way he treated me, and I made that choice then and there. I would do everything I could to help her with this situation.
Polk issued a no trespass order, banning Charles Bryant from the UNT campus. But once again, Bryant would not take no for an answer.
The biggest fear I have as a police officer sometimes is emotion, because emotion drives people to do things you would never imagine.
So the arrest did not stop Charles, and Caitlin admitted that she was pretty scared of him, but when she didn't hear from him for a few weeks after that arrest, she kind of thought that it had passed, like maybe he got the hint. But a week later, not a few weeks, a week later, he came into her new job on her first day of work. She asked him to leave and could tell he was visibly upset by this request. After he left, her coworkers informed them that he came in the day before looking for her. She asked the manager to please keep him out, but the manager told her that there was nothing they could do. And so because of that, she did not feel safe there, and she quit the job and went back to her old job.
But there is something that a manager could do. You cannot have people come in your place of business, right?
You have the right to refuse service to anybody.
But that's what I'm saying.
But
no,
they said
you
because he didn't actually do anything in the restaurant.
So what? That isn't...
I'm just telling you what they said, okay? And so she went back...
Flip this table
I know.
over.
So she went back to her old job, which was back in Grapevine, which means she was driving at least a half an hour each way to go to work, but they protected her there. She felt safe there. And on a side note, you should never give your coworkers schedules away if someone calls. Like when I used to work at the liquor store,
No.
they would not even tell you if that person worked there.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah. It is so dangerous. Like, anyways, so a week after that, which would have been their 3-month anniversary on September 6th, Charles showed up at her campus dorm once again. This time, he had a bouquet of flowers and a 2-page letter that he had written her. He had slipped by security. They were distracted. And anyways, when Caitlin heard him knocking on the door and asking her to open the door, she became absolutely terrified and hid in her roommate's closet. She could hear him saying, "Caitlin, I know you're in there. Please open up. I have something for you." But she called 911, and she remembered being very scared because they kept saying that they couldn't hear what she was saying and they needed her to speak louder. But she was afraid to speak louder because she didn't know what he would do if he actually heard her inside the dorm. So Charles fled, but was arrested by campus police 10 minutes later, and at this point he was charged with trespassing. 4 days later, Charles bonds out of jail. He at this point has been charged with stalking and trespassing, but like I mentioned, he bonded out. Caitlin would not physically see him again, but she would start receiving messages from him. So even though she had blocked him everywhere that she could, he made a fake Facebook account and started sending her messages like, "Here I am, heartbroken and with a criminal record for bringing the girl I love flowers." So, yeah, so gross. So I'm going to play another little clip here. These clips are all from the 48 hours that they did over this. Okay. It was very informative.
It became really serious for me. If an actual physical arrest doesn't stop the behavior, then something is wrong.
Exactly.
Captain Polk helped Caitlin get an emergency protective order. And because Brian had kept trying to reach her after his arrest.
How you doing, Charles? You have your ID with you?
Polk had his officers go to Brian's house the next day and charge him yet again. This time for stalking. This was his third arrest in 14 days.
I told him if he continued to communicate with Caitlin, I would use every email, I would use every text message, I would use every phone call as a reason to have him rearrested.
This is what I mean. This officer was really trying to follow through and protect her.
Who was it that you said spoke in that second clip?
Both clips are the same officer.
Okay.
Officer Polk.
Okay.
So 2 days later, Charles posts a $5,000 bond. This is a side story because I didn't really know where else this part would fit in, but Charles had exhibited this behavior before. He had met a woman named Christy Dixon a year before on a dating app, and she worked with abused children, and his behavior set off red flags for her. After a few days, he was already telling her he loved her, and they hadn't even kissed yet. He was getting very attached very quickly, and it kind of worried her, so she broke things off. And
good for her. Look at all these women with their boundaries and taking things the right way. Right.
And after they broke things off, he continued to pursue her, and she recognized his behavior as someone who had been abused as a child. And so she asked about his childhood. Again, she's used to working with abused children and kind of talking to them, and she felt he had this same mentality as an abused child. So anyways, when she asked him about it, he claims that he was abused and molested as a child. However, nobody has ever been able to confirm that. So they don't know if he was just lying or what the case was there, because there's not a whole lot known about his background.
Yeah, but it's quacks like a duck.
Yeah.
So
she thought, well, that makes sense, and that his behavior came off as the abused child and someone who just needed extra love. So she thought he was harmless, and he was a nice guy. It was just not someone that she personally wanted to be in a relationship with. So she maintained contact with him, and in her words, just felt sorry for him. So technically Caitlin would be the second woman, and it was escalating in pattern. So on September 13th,
I bet she feels really fucking bad. Feel bad
she
for her.
honestly, she said in an interview that she did not believe that he could have done that, and she was so shocked when she found out that he did do this to, like, that it escalated. She didn't stand up for him. She was not excusing his behavior. She was just explaining in her mind that he exhibited similar things to the abused children. And that it just surprised her.
It took her a lot for her to believe that he did it.
Well, I think it was just the initial shock, right? Because she was like maintaining she just thought he was harmless. She needed constant attention because he didn't get it when he was young. She didn't because he wasn't stalking her to the level that he was stalking Caitlin.
It escalates, y'all. It escalates. It does. It doesn't just stop. There's just more need. Of control.
So on September 13th, Charles was back in Denton at a college bar that Caitlin had once told him about going to. An hour later, Jackie Vandagriff walked into the same bar. She was only there to ask about a job, but ended up in a conversation with Charles. Jackie was 24 and was attending the Texas Women's University in Denton. She was studying nutrition with a focus on wellness. 45 minutes after entering the bar, Jackie made a Twitter post that said, "I'm glad I decided to get off Tinder and walk into this bar." Hours later, Jackie would be dead. Jackie's best friend described her as a very social person, and whenever she would go out, she would make friends with anyone that she met. So her friend was not surprised that she walked in for this, asking for a job, and then ended up talking to people, Charles being one of those people. They kind of had stuff in common. He was a fitness trainer. She was studying nutrition. Like, that's kind of what kind of hit the conversation off. And at 9 p.m., video surveillance shows Charles and Jackie leaving. They headed to another bar called Shots and Crafts, also in Denton. They were seen on camera talking to a group of other women, having a good time. Everyone was laughing. Nothing seemed off, right? Like, they were just all having a good time. At around 9:45, the weather started to get really bad and it started raining, so everyone was leaving. And the footage shows Jackie leaving with Charles. He was supposed to be dropping her off at her home because she didn't live that far away, and she'd been spending the whole kind of night with him, so she felt safe with him driving her home. And so a few minutes after leaving, Charles stops at a convenience store. Now, at this convenience store, the footage shows Jackie in the car and him and no one else. And this is the last time Jackie was seen alive. Her phone was pinging off towers just south of Denton around 10 p.m. And then the last ping came in around 1:30 a.m. near Charles's home, which was 20 miles west from where her body would eventually be found. Dismembered, she'd been decapitated, and her heart had been cut out and her body burned inside of a blue kiddie pool.
Oh, that just serves one of those. Jesus.
The day after she was found murdered, she was found at Grapevine Lake in like this little area. There was Grapevine Lake has like kind of like a marsh area.
Okay.
And so the kiddie pool was over there. And so the day after she was found murdered.
So she went back to him? She was okay?
No. Jackie was in the car with him. He was supposed to be taking her home.
Right, but
he never actually took her home.
No, but like she dumped him.
No, Jackie is the girl from the bar.
Jackie's the girl from the bar, okay. Not the ex-girlfriend.
Right. I'm sorry. Okay. So for those that are confused, Christy was the one that I had the side story about that met him on the dating app 1 year prior to this, who thought he was just harmless.
Okay, but
Caitlin is the one that he's been stalking
for 3 months.
Stalking and harassing and threatening. Yes,
and
Caitlin.
This is somebody totally new.
Yeah, Jackie is the one that walked into the bar and hit it off with him and left with him. Okay. Do you need me to go back?
Nope, that's okay. As I was like, wait,
Jackie walked into the bar.
Was happy to hang out with him again. I was so confused.
So he went to a bar that Caitlin had told him about, and people think that he was there waiting for Caitlin to show up because she had, when they had been talking, she mentioned that this was a bar that a lot of college kids went to. Okay. So he was at the bar. Jackie walks in. She's looking for a job. She starts talking to him. They hit it off because he's a personal trainer. She's studying fitness.
Okay. Yep.
Very charming.
Yep.
They go to this other bar. Okay.
All right.
Okay. They leave that other bar, go to the convenience store, all that stuff. So that brings us to the day she was found murdered. There was a new post that had been made to her Twitter, which police assumed was
so
made.
Cute.
Oh my gosh, I know.
So
and if you look up Caitlin Mathis, they do look similar.
Oh gosh, okay.
So the tweet that was made, police assume was made by whoever killed her, and the tweet says, "Never knew I could feel like this," and how fucking creepy, because
that was posted after she died.
After she died, but like when you think about all the things that happened to this poor woman, because I just briefly talked about what happened to her, I'll mention some more things a little bit later, but like holy shit, that's so fucking just fucked up.
So God, they do look alike.
Yeah. So police knew that they needed to work quickly to find this killer and identify the man that was seen with her in the camera footage from the bars. They did this by first finding that group of women that I told you they were like hanging out with and chit-chatting with and all that stuff. One of the women in the group had actually gotten Charles's business card because she was looking for a fitness instructor, which is what he was. And so now the Grapevine police had his name, and at which point when they ran his name, they discovered the restraining order against him for Caitlin, who was going to college across the street from this bar, and felt like he was a really good suspect in this case. And so the Grapevine police actually called Captain Polk, and that's the officer that had been helping Caitlin, the ex-girlfriend. And at that time, he was in the middle of running a race, but stopped to take the call because he saw it was coming from the police department. The first thing that they told him was that Charles was their suspect in a murder in Denton, the murder of a Denton female, and he immediately called Caitlin to find out if she was safe.
Wow.
He was like, I can't tell you the details. I just need you to be somewhere safe.
Wow.
So at this time, even though Charles was the main suspect, they had no physical evidence tying him to the actual crime. Polk was really, really worried about...
They found the body.
They found the body.
But they don't
But they didn't... And they knew that she had been with Charles. But they had no way to connect him to the murder or any of that.
The last one to see her alive, though. I mean, it's circumstantial, but...
They have to, they wanted a solid case.
Okay.
And so at this time, even though Charles was the main suspect, again, they had no physical evidence tying him to that crime.
Well, there's video of her. I mean, you said there was video of the them Walmart.
Together, but not him killing.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, there was footage of them together at the bar and then at the convenience store.
And how long before she died? Did they find her?
They found her the day after she was murdered.
Okay.
It's not like he really tried
to put him in prison right now.
I know.
Put him in prison.
At this time, even though, again, he was main suspect, no physical evidence. Polk was really worried about Caitlin because Charles was free and no one knew what he was going to do next. And the night of the murder, Charles had used Jackie's phone to actually send a friend request to Caitlin's phone. Caitlin did not know it was him. She thought it was Jackie. So she accepted this friend request. But you killed this woman, and then your first thought is to take her phone and send your ex-girlfriend a friend request from the dead girl's Facebook account. Like, I don't know. So I don't get it. The day after the murder,
doesn't that show like a serious premeditation to do that? Like, how else am I gonna get in there? No.
The day after the murder, I can't speak. The day after the murder, the day after the murder, Charles started sending Caitlin emails again. One was a picture from a tree in Grapevine with the wording over it that read, "First kiss under this tree once upon a time, XOXO." This tree,
Yikes.
where they had their first kiss, which is what he sent in the email, was also in the area of where Jackie's body was found. And Caitlin and the police are convinced that he took it the same day he killed Jackie.
Yes, he did. Oh my gosh.
And at this point, she was very concerned he was going to come after her. She was constantly looking over her shoulder. She was very scared. Other emails included messages such as, "I'm not going to lie. I miss you. I still love you. I still love you. I never got mad even when we broke up." Just constant emails about missing her, loving her, wanting to get back with her. All of these things. And
see what I did for you?
yeah. Charles had been prohibited from contacting Caitlin in any fashion due to this protective order. So Captain Polk thought that they could use these violations to help the Grapevine police arrest him and at least get him off the street while they tried to find the evidence. So Captain Polk was very involved in trying to get this man behind bars.
Good for him. Hero.
Yeah. So once in custody on September 18th, Grapevine detectives had him in an interview room, and he had hoped to get more information about what happened to Jackie. But right away, he starts acting weird and kind of distancing himself from her, acting like he didn't even really recognize her. When they showed pictures of them at the bar, he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw her there, but I didn't really talk to her or anything." And when they asked him, like, "You're seen leaving with her," and
you're like,
yeah, he was like, I don't remember any." I was like, "Oh my God, I don't remember. And at this point, while he's being interrogated, they're getting search warrants for his house. It had been 4 days since her body had been found. And so this would have been plenty of time to destroy evidence, but the police actually found quite a bit of evidence. So when they entered his home, they found a large military-style knife, Jackie's purse, a Texas Woman's University satchel, a zip tie with Jackie's hair on it, blood samples, and condoms. And these were just a few of the things. They found bones of hers in his backyard. I mean, they found all kinds of evidence, okay? Like, there was no denying that she was there and she had been murdered. While in custody, police found footage from a local Walmart where he had been there at like 4:30 in the morning, the day that, the morning after she'd been murdered, right? Like, she murdered at 1:30 in the morning, then a couple hours later, she's at Walmart. He was purchasing a shovel and a blue kiddie pool. Ooh. The kiddie pool matched the one that Jackie's body was found in. So I have another little clip to play from the interview.
This girl, you're at the bar.
This is the Grapevine police talking to him.
You're walking around Walmart at 4 o'clock in the morning buying a shovel. She's found dead.
As you hear, he keeps saying, "I don't recall this."
In a pool that came from your backyard.
He even got to the point at the end of his interview with our detective where he said, "Well, I must have done it. I don't remember doing anything."
Everything points to me. It's like I had to have done it.
What an ass. So he confesses. And you may be thinking to yourself, open shut case, right? You'd be wrong. This is in fact not where this fucking freaking story ends, and it frustrates me to no end because he's being so nonchalant and acting like he doesn't remember, that he's just saying he did it because they're telling him he did it, acting like he never saw her. So while all of this overwhelming evidence that he had there was overwhelming evidence that he had disposed of her body, there was still actually no evidence that he physically murdered her, which just... And at the time that they're interviewing him, they still didn't actually know how she died because her body was burned. So they were trying to figure that out while they still had him in custody because they didn't want to release him. So the Grapevine police brought in Jim Holland. So Jim Holland was a member of an elite team of Texas Rangers. He had a great track record with interviewing serial killers and people like Charles Bryant. And up until this point, Charles was eerily calm. during the whole questioning.
I guess I did it.
Yeah, showed no remorse. He fit the bill for extreme antisocial behavior. And so Jim, however, would break this. He had developed his own brand of interviewing techniques for cold-blooded killers. And he was used to cracking cases where serial killers would, like, confound other investigators, like confuse them, just kind of not talk to them. His interviewing technique was really good at getting them to confess and open up. And so they brought him in. And this is what he had to say. He said, I think it's almost like mind bending. He says, I think of it almost like mind bending. You're dealing with someone who's controlling, manipulative, and trying to almost impress their will upon you, he said. They feel that at the end of the day, they can change your mind. And what you're basically doing is stepping in the back door of their mind and steering them without them knowing it. After interviewing Charles for 6 hours, Jim theorized that Charles couldn't handle his ex-girlfriend's rejection and that he took revenge on the next woman he could find, and that woman just happened to be Jackie Vandagriff. And she looked
a lot like, very similar.
He said, I think at the end of the day, she's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she looked too much like his ex-girlfriend, Jim said.
So sad.
Caitlin agrees, the ex-girlfriend, agrees with Jim's theory and feels extremely lucky to be alive. She says, I don't know if he wanted to send a message to me or just to express his anger, she said. He just took things way, way out of hand. Jim said in his 26 years in career in law enforcement, he has investigated hundreds of murderers, and Jackie Vandagriff's case stood out to him on multiple levels. Not only was it particularly gruesome crime scene with the body dismembered and burned, but it was also, he described as very unsophisticated. The ranger said it had the hallmarks of a serial killer's first victim.
It probably was.
Yeah,
it probably was.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said, oftentimes, if you can find the initial murder that a serial killer committed, you'll find a disheveled crime scene. They make mistakes. It's their first time. Vandagriff's purse was found at Charles's house, and there was evidence that he attempted to bury her body in his own backyard before moving her to Grapevine Lake, but the earth was too hard, so he couldn't, get through it. And so Holland says, I think that this was a disheveled murder. Was he going to stop? Why would he? There's no doubt in my mind that if Charles had not been arrested by the Grapevine Police Department, he would have continued to kill, and he would have gotten better. Yeah. And I personally think as he got better and better, it would have almost been impossible to catch him. Ooh. That's how psychopathic. So the way he described it is a sociopath is born as a serial killer. They have something scarred on their brain and they're born. A sociopath is a created serial killer based on something that happens in their life environment. So that's how he defines the two. And he said that he feels like that Charles was a certified sociopath, and he would have been an amazing serial killer and probably gotten away with it because he was so manipulative.
He would have been such a good serial killer, Ashley.
You know what I mean? He just means he's so manipulative and so evil and so full of anger and so charming that he would have been very dangerous.
Dude,
that's what he meant by great.
So glad.
Yeah.
So glad they caught him.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he left a huge paper trail behind him too. Really.
Prosecutor Anna Hernandez thinks that Jim is right and believes that Charles might have been in the midst of more murderous plans when he was arrested for Jackie's case. She might have been just victim number 1, with Caitlin becoming victim number 2. In April 2018, this is 2 years after the stuff happened, the trial against Charles began. He pled not guilty, and his defense was that he killed Jackie on accident after they had very kinky sex in his car. He tried to claim that she was into choking and wanted to be choked, and he choked her with a zip tie, and it had just gone too far, and he panicked and tried to figure out what to do with her body. However, the autopsy report was done. There was no evidence that the two ever had sex at all, period.
I wonder if that's State Representative Anna Hernandez.
Maybe. This was back in 20 18.
That's probably her. Did they interview her in the documentary?
No. She was interviewed in a written interview, but she's not on this documentary. On this particular one. There's several.
Did you see her face? No.
So it was the prosecution's case that Charles met Jackie that night, and after they went to the second bar together, they went back to his house. The jury heard from the medical examiner that they ran tests on Jackie's remains and found no evidence of sexual assault.
Oh.
It was.
Is that legit? Is that legit? Like, no evidence?
No sexual assault.
Wow.
So his theory of that it was kinky sex, they had gone too far, was basically they're saying was a lie.
Okay.
It was the prosecution's case.
Shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked.
That Jackie did not die as a result of any type of sexual encounter. They believe she was viciously assaulted and strangled to death with a zip tie before being cut up with a knife and set on fire. Their theory was that Charles killed Jackie because she looked like his ex-girlfriend, Caitlin. Caitlin would end up being a star witness in his trial, testifying about their relationship and how he stalked her. In the 48 Hours episode, she recalls being in a courtroom and testifying and looking at Charles, where he was looking directly at her and smirking. So I will say originally they were not going to let Caitlin testify. They threw her testimony out because they said it had nothing to do with this case, or his attorneys were trying to get it thrown out because they said what happened between Caitlin and him had nothing to do with the case with Jackie. I feel like it had everything fucking thing to do with the case.
That had everything.
Yeah. Her testimony stood. So this is a quote from from Jackie's father, Rick. It says, "We don't celebrate holidays or birthdays anymore." He was doing this was him during a testimony. He was live streaming testimony during the sentencing phase of Charles's trial. He said, "Friends invite us over for holiday dinners, but we can't celebrate in the house and look at her chair."
No.
Charles's police interrogation ended up being thrown out. I don't know why it was thrown out. I couldn't find any information on why it was thrown out.
Wait, what was thrown out?
His interrogation. Where he was like confessing and all this stuff.
Oh, where he was like, I guess I did it.
Yeah.
All the evidence points me
basically
to
his
doing
attorney said that he was like coerced.
Oh my God.
And so, however, all of the other evidence against him, which there was a lot, was still admissible. Like it was still being
admissible.
used.
I mean, you know, like honestly, a confession is fucking fantastic to have, but I mean, they had so much else.
Yeah. There was a lot of surveillance footage from both bars and the gas station, as well as him at Walmart buying the exact things that were used.
What? With the victim in the car? But okay.
No.
That was a different time.
Yeah, he went to a gas station with her.
That's right. Okay.
She was already dead when he was at Walmart. Like he killed her and then went to Walmart.
And he's all just
follow the timeline, Kat. I'm just kidding.
God, there's just I need the red string.
It's very quick. It's all very, very quick because this isn't a matter of like
Caitlin
days.
was Jackie and Jackie was okay. Yeah.
So there was a lot of people at the bars and employees that confirmed seeing them together, and like
that's so lucky.
Yeah. All of the evidence found inside of his home, again, the purse, the satchel, her freaking bone, like all kinds of things. Like, how are you going to say she wasn't here, but her bone's in your backyard? You know what I mean? Like, why is her bone in your backyard?
Face. Look at, yes.
Like, how do you explain that, sir?
Well, let me tell you. I'm going to tell you.
He had no excuse for any of the things, okay? Like, he kept saying he didn't know, he didn't remember, he wasn't responsible. It was a kinky sex thing. Yeah.
I guess.
So there was a witness who came forward telling police they had witnessed a white man standing over a fire at the scene of the crime and leaving in an SVU that matched Charles. They didn't realize what
SUV.
he was. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Not special victims unit.
Yeah, I have that written down, right? I just said it wrong. Anyways, but the man didn't realize what he was doing, right? Like he didn't know he was burning a body. But when he heard about it, he immediately called police and said, I saw this type of person. Anyways. And so, a witness came forward, said all that stuff. The medical examiner would also tell the court that Jackie died officially as a result of homicidal violence. They testified that Jackie did not have soot in her airways, which indicated that she was not alive when her body was set on fire.
Well, he had already decapitated her.
Yes, but they didn't know if she...
what order?
Where all of these things happened.
Okay.
The examiner testified that Jackie had fractures of the hyoid bone, Hyoid.
Hyoid? Okay, which is what?
Which is the bone in your neck.
Oh.
That was caused by force applied to the upper neck. A forensics anthropologist testified that these injuries were perimortem, which is pre-death, and not attributable to decapitation or dismemberment. Basically,
yes, I just actually heard about somebody else like that died like that.
So they said that these injuries would not have come from the decapitation or the dismemberment. Like, it happened prior. So they think when he was choking her with the zip tie. She testified that injuring this bone is consistent with strangulation. It requires direct pressure, which is usually a result of strangulation by a hand or ligature. And Jackie had received an injury that resulted from blunt force trauma to her head. It was also perimortem because of the amount of hemorrhaging.
Hemorrhaging?
Yes. They could tell that it was prior to death. So she suffered a lot. There were stab wounds that did not appear to be part of the process of dismembering her body. And the state's expert testified that from the nature of these wounds, they appeared to be
extra.
Yeah,
for decoration,
just for a little razzle dazzle, I guess. The state's expert testified that from the nature of these wounds, they appear to be inflicted while she was still living. DNA.
No, not even postmortem. Oh my gosh, he was torturing her. Oh my god. Oh.
He cut out her motherfucking heart. A DNA profile extracted from the zip tie, stun gun, and knife made it almost statistically impossible that the sample came from someone other than Jackie. The DNA analysis testified that DNA was found on the stun gun that had been recovered from Charles's car and that Jackie was the major contributor. It was the defense's case that the zip tie was placed around Jackie's throat as part of a consensual sex act, and she died due to the zip tie and as a result of that consensual act. The court heard from the defense that Jackie's body went limp and Charles freaked out. His lawyer argued that the dismemberment, decapitation, and setting the body on fire afterwards was a drunken, chaotic reaction to the panic.
Are you kidding?
He was experiencing.
Are you kidding?
No, and it gets worse.
That's what his lawyer said.
Yes, and it gets worse.
Right. Oh my god.
His attorney, and what comes out of this bitch's mouth next. I'm sorry to refer to someone as a bitch, but oh my god. His attorney, Joetta Keene, in closing argument, said that Charles had made a bad mistake. He's guilty of making a horrible mistake when something went wrong. There was no motive for this good-looking man to kill that good-looking girl. Are you fucking serious? What do the looks have to do with anything in this fucking
Can I leave
case?
a review on her Yelp?
I'm sorry, but that made me so freaking mad.
Where can I write? This is bullshit.
They the prosecution.
She's got to have a Google review page.
Yeah. The prosecution brought in witnesses who are part of that community that are into the things that he was claiming Jackie was into to testify.
That's not how we do things.
Yeah. It was just all the stuff. They proved everything he said wrong. And so anyways, in the closing statements for the prosecution, they told the jury that there was no evidence they had sex, which we discussed earlier, and they claimed that the defense's argument that he panicked was nonsensical due to his actual actions. And this is a direct quote.
Yeah, because they just kept going.
Yeah. The defense says he freaked out, but their own expert said it was homicidal violence. Why cut out the heart? What does it have to do with disposing of a body? He cut her heart out.
Preach.
I want that image to sink in for you.
Preach.
So the defense attorney said that Charles deserved 20 years and that he could be rehabilitated. His attorneys were saying that he only needed 20 years and he would be rehabilitated.
What?
As a woman, I don't know how she defended him. Anyways, the jury found him guilty and sentenced him to life in prison on the charge of capital murder and 20 years confinement for tampering. And they were to be served concurrently with the possibility of parole after 30 years.
She probably thought he was cute.
Caitlin was quoted saying she wished she had gotten the death penalty because she's afraid he'll come after her if he's released, and of course because of the brutal murder. And so this is the final little clip I'm going to play from this interview. Hold on.
Always will be.
I fear that when he gets out, he'll come and find me and do something to either me or someone that I love. That's my biggest fear.
Ever since this happened, Caitlin and her mother have been thinking about Jackie and her family.
This whole time I wanted to reach out to
Caitlin's mom,
but I didn't know how they felt.
Nearly 2 years after Jackie died, they finally met.
Her grandmother, bless her heart, she immediately came up to us and to Caitlin and hugged her and said, "I've been so worried about you these past 2 years."
Wow. Karen, why is this the part that gets you?
He took away their little girl. And the pain I saw in their eyes. I could feel their pain.
And yet the grandmother was telling Caitlin she was worried about Caitlin.
Yes,
You sound like very special people.
they are.
Caitlin says she struggled with the fact that she survived and Jackie did not. This so easily could have been you.
And some days I wish it was. It's just the guilt that eats me up sometimes. I would have easily taken her place if I had the chance.
he did not receive the death penalty because they couldn't prove that he committed another crime with her murder, such as kidnapping or rape. And if they could have proved that, he would have been given life, or the death penalty, but they couldn't because she left the bar with him on her own free will, and there was no sign of sexual assault. Currently, Charles Bryant is serving his sentence at the William P. Bill Clements Unit in Porter County, Texas. As a side note, which I don't understand why he didn't get charged for this, and why it didn't get brought up in trial. But when the police searched his home, there were several phones that belonged to Charles, and they found hundreds of photos and videos depicting children engaged in sexual acts.
What? How did he not get that? What?
That was in an article in the Dallas News.
What the fuck?
That's all it said about it. They never said anything else about it, but it was a reputable news source, so I can't imagine that was made up. I don't know what happened to that, but so this is a
ooh, that makes me mad. Ooh, that makes me hot.
Yes.
I'm hot. My face is turning hot. I'm getting hot. My neck is hot. Oh my gosh.
So
that makes me so upset.
I know, I'm sorry, it's almost over. So this
no,
is
but that's just what
rant. Yeah.
Why not? Just because is it just because he's already serving time? He's already has a life sentence. Fucking add more.
He didn't go with the court case. I fucking
add
guess.
more. And why? You know what? He committed another crime. If they found all this shit, that he did commit another crime, and he could have gotten the death penalty. Fuck those people.
Yeah. So this is a quote from Randy Vandagriff that said, "Although it had been 19 months since we lost our precious daughter, not a minute, hour, or day goes by that we do not think of her. Her kindness, her compassion, her enthusiasm, and love of life. What would Jackie say if we could talk to her? She would say, 'Remember me, remember my hopes and dreams for the future and my plans to get there.'"
Oh, that makes me so sad.
So the family has established an endowment at the Texas Women's University, which is called the Jacqueline Ray Vandagriff's Endowment, to fund an internship for nutrition and food science majors, and it also gives them a class ring. So that's how they honor her, and to help other people who are doing the major that she did. Like I said, he is still in prison. His chance for parole has not come up yet. There have been no appeals as far as I could find. So that's where that piece of shit is, and that's my story.
Well, I'm glad he's at least put away, but just add I just add more. You know, you can't ever have too much.
Yeah.
Because what if he gets out?
Yeah.
You know, you want to have something else.
For sure.
Statute of limitations. Shit like that.
So Caitlin has done interviews since all of that happened. Like she did one in 2021.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, she still has that guilt, right? Like she still does not understand why she survived, and she feels so bad that she couldn't warn Jackie about Charles. And in the interview at another point, she talks about how you know, that she feels that maybe she did survive for a purpose to warn other women about the dangers of stalking, and you know, taking it very seriously and reporting it and keeping documentation of every little thing that happens, which of course with your field of work, you know, probably more than of course I do about it, and you see the real effects of it. So
which is so easy for everybody on the outside. Like she had no idea that he would go after. She had fear for herself. Mm-hmm. She was living in fear for herself. Mm-hmm. At the exact same time he changed course and went. She had no way of knowing that he was going to pick a lookalike to send her a message. I mean, there's no way for her to have known that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't giving any indication. In fact, he just went right back to stalking her and that fucking tree and the finding, you know, getting her on Facebook. And that's, I mean, she had no way. It's easy for us and to look at, but like, you didn't know, you know, it's easy for us to say instead of live it. But I hope that she can find peace. But stalking is serious. It is serious.
And just the fact that the police officer took her seriously and followed through with her, like calling and saying she was scared, because you hear so many of these other stories that we've done, or you see where people have called security campus and they haven't done anything. Or the police basically laugh it off, boys will be boys type situation. And that is dangerous. That is a very dangerous way of thinking. I hate that phrase, boys will be boys. I hate it. Jackie did nothing wrong. She wasn't dressed any kind of way. She wasn't drunk. Like, she literally walked into a bar to ask for a job, and this man still fucking killed her. So it doesn't matter.
So just so you know, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men experience stalking at some point in their lives. That's a huge number.
Yeah, it's very real for men and women. I'm not saying that women are the only ones that get stalked. I know for sure that there have been lots of men that have had crazy, crazy stalkers. I just mean in general in a relationship. If you're being stalked, say something. Don't feel guilty. It is not your fault. They will not change, and it can and usually does escalate.
So most common stalking tactics experienced by victims, and this comes from stalkingawareness.org. 75% say they got unwanted phone calls. 57% say they were approached or they just showed up. 57% they get texts, emails, messages. 52% say they were followed and watched. That's crazy. 72% of stalking victims were threatened with physical harm. 84% of stalking victims felt fearful, threatened, or concerned for safety. 11% of stalking cases last more than 5 years. Jesus.
Does it give the statistic of like how many of those stalking victims actually end up getting murdered?
Yes. I can pull that up. So for 85% of intimate partner femicides, so women being killed by their female, 85% of intimate partner, 85% of attempted intimate partner femicides were preceded by stalking in the prior year. 76% of completed intimate partners femicides were preceded by stalking in the prior year. 43% of female and 32% of male stalking victims are targeted by current or former intimate partners. 21% of stalking occurs during the relationship, 36% during and after, and 43% after. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the impact. This is from the National Coalition of Domestic Violence also. And it says the impact on victims. It says 1 in 7 stalking victims has been forced to move because of their victimization.
Mm-hmm.
They suffer a higher rate of depression, anxiety, insomnia, and social dysfunction. 86% of them reported that their personalities had changed as a result of being stalked. 37% of them have a full post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis, and an additional 18% are considered at least one diagnostic, like they fulfill all but like one of the criterias. 1 in 4 stalking victims contemplate suicide, and 1 in 8 stalking victims is reported losing work because of the stalking, and more than half of those victims reported losing 5 or more work days. So it does have a real impact. So don't take it lightly. You know, it's a very serious thing. It doesn't matter. Report it.
1 in 3 women stalked by an intimate partner were also sexually assaulted by that partner. So stalking is serious. It can be deadly. Mm-hmm. It is something to not play around with. If you feel like you are being stalked, please go to authorities. Reach out.
Yes.
Get help.
Please protect yourself. For sure. And so, again, that's kind of why I want to do this story, because I just felt like it highlighted the importance of a police officer taking things seriously, the dangers of stalking and all of that. And so, sorry, it was a little depressing, but I just wanted...
This is case file.
I know, but...
They can't all be crazy teenagers with decapitated heads. Okay, that's okay. But anyway, I'm working on my story for next week. I'm not even going to give you a hint about what it is, but it is being worked on. But until then, reach out if you need help.
Yes,
if you see something,
here.
say something, please. Stalking is serious. Please take it seriously.
Yes.
Reach out if you need any resources. We are here for you. And we'll see you next week. Bye.